Hey Valley Metal, welcome back to another math lesson. Today we will be talking about changing percentages and expressing them as fractions. First of all, let's look at the question of the day. When did the first Action toys appear? We'll be back with that answer and much more. But first, the target page. Officially, the target is 4.6c. I can write percentages as fractions. Let's do this thing. 67% of the Black Friday shoppers waiting in this line got the doorbuster special they wanted. Express this percentage as a fraction. Well, we know that percentages are always the number per 100. So, simply 67 100ths works just fine. Let's take a look at some vocabulary words. First of all, remembering percents or percentages are the specified number out of 100. And a fraction is a number or quantity that is not completely whole. We have a numerator and a denominator. All right, here's a couple quickies. Percentage, 67%, we said was 67 100ths. Just like 17% would be 17 100ths. 80%, 80 100ths, but we can reduce that, which is really the same as 4/5. All right, if we divide each one by 20. Seems too simple, right? Well, really all we're doing is just dividing and moving the decimal 2 spots to the left because we're dividing by 100. Let me talk a little bit more about that on the next slide. I got 4 easy steps for doing this that work almost all the time. First of all, you just take a percentage, something like 58%, and you get rid of the percentage sign and you just write 58 and put a fraction bar underneath it. Then put a 0 under each digit and then put a 1 in front of it. 58 100ths. Really what you're doing is taking and dividing by 100. You're taking this 58, moving the decimal over to here so you have 0.58, and then putting, transferring the decimal into a fraction. But we're just kind of shortcutting that whole moving the decimal. And it works in almost all situations. Then you have to reduce that. We had 58 100ths. We can divide each of them by 2 and we get 29 50ths, and then we're done. So those 4 easy steps. Let's take a look at another example. Where's my next slide? Here it is. 12.5. Now this is a little trickier. So we get rid of the decimal and the percentage point. We put a 0 under each one. Now we've got 125 1,000ths. Made a fraction, right? We have to reduce it, put it in simplest form. So we divide each by 5. We have 25 200ths. And if we divide by 25 again, we can get it all the way down to 1/8. And now we know we're in our simplest form. So sometimes there'll actually be a decimal in there, and you can just ignore that decimal, get rid of it, and get rid of the percentage sign, put it all over there, all over a fraction bar, put a 0 under each, and put a 1 in front of the whole mess. Fraction, just got to reduce it. Remember, really what you're doing, you're just simply dividing by 100, moving that decimal a couple of spots over to the left. But we're just shortcutting it here. All right. Here's a straightforward one, 60%. Now we got a 0 at the end though. Sometimes those are tricky. So put a 0 under each one. Put the 1 in front. We got 60 100ths. We can reduce that. Divide by 2. We got 30 50ths. We can divide that by 10. Top and the bottom. We end up with 3/5. That worked out okay. I think there's one more tricky one. I think it's right here. Yes. 8%. Well, if you're going to use the shortcut method, you have to remember, you have to think of that as 0.8. Because remember, we are moving this 2 spots to the left. Remember? If we move it 1, and we move it 2, there we go. If we move it 2, we've got to have a placeholder there, dividing by 100. So single digits, you have to think of it as 0.8, and then the system works. Put it in a fraction bar. Put a 1 in front of the both zeros, and then simply reduce into 2/25. Okay? All right. Another way you can do this is if you take 8 and you divide it by 100, you're going to get 0.08 on your calculator. Just like if you take this one here, 60, and you divide 60 divided by 100, you're going to get 0.6 on your calculator. And then you could put that over a 0. And you could start with a decimal and go to a fraction too, which you already know how to do. All right, let's have you try a couple on your own. 19%, 29%, or 29.5%, and 4%. Go ahead and pause it. All right, let's see how you did. 19%, straight up, 19/100ths. Nice work. 29.5% becomes 295 1,000ths. Divide each by 5, we get 59 200ths. All right, here's that tricky 4%. Remembering that it's 0 over 4, okay? And then you got, divide each one by 4, you got 1/25th. Remember, we usually just write it like this, right? 4 100ths. But putting that 0 there on those single digits will help you get the right fraction. Alrighty, very good. Let's do the ticket to the show. Here we go. You do 17% and 40%. Take and put those onto a little scrap of paper and bring them in. That is your ticket. So express these percentages as fractions. Here's the answer to the trivia question. When did first action toys appear? I was kind of surprised. 4,000 years ago, kids in Asia were playing with action toys like G.I. Joe and Barbie. No. Actually, I was trying to look for a stick man, and the best I could find is, something like this. Some rocks with eyes. Ah. No, I imagine that there were some sort of action figures that they made probably carved out of wood or sticks or something like that. Interesting though, isn't it? All right. Thanks for listening. Have a great evening.